And so we are live. Okay, good. Still using the legacy setup because I find it a lot more um, useful than the new setup that they're trying to make the primary methodology, the new canvas layout, which thankfully they have not. Rumble has not yet gotten rid of the legacy canvas layout, which I'm thankful for. I was supposed to have a conversation with someone at Rumble today on a Zoom call to discuss feedback regarding the new Canvas layout, but I got a message this morning from the young woman in question saying that she's out of the office sick today, asking to reschedule. I will go into that email and I will reschedule that conversation for another day, hopefully sometime in the near future. But aside from that, greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins Trubergy, also known as Byron Osidious. And primarily today, I want to start off for my initial hardline focus on a bit of Kindle Kerfuffle. And as indicated by the title of the stream here, a Kindle Kerfuffle and some fevered egos once again. I've touched on the whole fevered egos thing probably like 4 or 5 times, at least in passing. I think I've brought that subject up quite a bit. I've only really focused hard on it as a primary topic of focus maybe twice before, so this would be the third time that I'll be devoting a decent chunk of time to fevered egos, especially online. But I want to start off with bookish things because of the Kindle. Amazon came out a couple of days ago, and it was confirmed yesterday by Publishers Weekly and Nielsen Bookscan. So it's come down from Amazon. They made the announcement. Someone inside Amazon rather was an anonymous source, but it was looked into by Publishers Weekly and Nielsen Bookscan, and they have both outlets have gotten confirmation, and it's been discussed quite a bit on X for the last 24 hours in the bookish realm amongst people who are writers and readers, bibliophiles of all sorts, that starting soon in, I believe they said May 5th, starting May, I think it's May 5th is when it will start, certain pre-2013 Amazon Kindle e-reader devices will no longer have support, technical support and troubleshooting available, and they will not have access to the Kindle store or servers in order to purchase or download titles on an account. Users will have to either use a mobile app and sign into their account, their Kindle account, through that, or they will have to get a post-2013 Amazon Kindle device to continue operating and using the Kindle marketplace and store in order to access their purchases. Now, there's an awful lot of weasel wording in the term purchase there, as a lot of folks have accurately pointed out and made comment of on X, because it brings us back once again to the conversation around what exactly is a purchase in the realm of digital goods and services. This is something that gets touched upon a lot more heavily in the arena of video games and in film and television, not as heavily as in video games. And it's rarely talked about or discussed in the bookish realm. Or rather, it doesn't make as much hay, it doesn't get as much focus or attention, because we are largely, especially in the United States, we're not as focused on books as a primary means or method of intaking entertainment whether it be for pure fluff or for thoughtful consideration and contemplation. Especially genre fiction kind of gets batted aside as something to be easily dismissed or not taken seriously, though I take my fiction very seriously. And I'm not alone in that. There's plenty of other storytellers who, yeah, we take our fiction very seriously because we are storytellers. It's what we do. And seeing that Amazon is going to now be making it more difficult for folks who have taken care of their devices, have ensured that they maintained the digital health or well-being of the physical devices themselves and the software they're on, they're still going to get screwed. And in a way, I would almost fall prey to this myself. This is my Amazon Kindle Fire. This is my first Kindle Fire e-reader tablet. As you can see in the reflection here, I am streaming off of an Amazon Kindle Fire 10. This has been my primary device for all of my, well, pretty much everything since my wife got it for me about 6-7 months back when she got her own new Kindle Fire 10 to replace her shattered Samsung tablet. One of our kiddos got a hold of it and dropped it on the floor and smashed it. So she got herself a new Kindle Fire 10. There was a sale. She was able to get a Bluetooth keyboard case combination for only $100. And she looked at me and said, "Hey, do you want a new Kindle? It's on sale right now. We can afford it. We've got the wiggle room." I thought about how kind of slow and or not dying, but no longer quite performing as well as it optimally as it used to. My laptop, which I've had for close to 8 years now. Crappy HP laptop, but still functions. It's just slowed down considerably and is no longer capable of some of the things at high speed that I wanted to be doing with it. So I was like, you know what? I don't do a whole lot of high-end anything, but let's take a look-see, and sure, I'll give it a try. We can afford it. I'll grab it. This little device has been a godsend. I love it. I greatly enjoy using it for my writing and sometimes for my reading, although for the most part, when it comes to digital or electronic reading, I still rely on my old Kindle Fire. Got this Kindle Fire in 2012. So this is amongst the Kindle devices that, due to Amazon's update in services, this will no longer be able to access the Kindle storefront. So that kind of would potentially screw me there. But all is not lost, and I would just want to really quick highlight a couple of things for folks. This is my front screen on my old Kindle, my 2012 Kindle. That's the first application that comes up on my screen because this is the application I use to do most of my reading on this device. This and this. Okay? The first one is an Adobe Acrobat PDF document file reader program. I will still be able to use the transfer port on this device connected to my laptop in order to transfer PDF document files from my laptop to my old 2012 Kindle to access and read. EPUB files, which was that second application, which was an EPUB library. I will still be able to use EPUB library in order to read EPUB document files on this device. It will still have internet connectivity. Amazon is not bricking their pre-2013 devices. They're just not going to offer any further technical support on them. That would be the dryer. So, this is not a paperweight. It's not that bad yet. They're not going to use the Wi-Fi or internet connection to brick your device. That is not what they're doing. They're just no longer going to offer technical support and assistance. Effectively, at this point, if you have a pre-2013 Kindle device, maintaining it, caring for it, doing anything that needs to be done in terms of troubleshooting, you're on your own. That's the effective policy that they're putting in place. And I'll discuss that more in just a moment. Be right back. Now, I am aware that for folks who do primarily use their Kindle for reading purposes through things like Kindle Unlimited, which allows for users of the Kindle device and the Amazon Kindle program to pay a monthly subscription fee in order to access, download, and read an unlimited number of Kindle Unlimited titles through access and transfer from their servers. This is going to be a death knell for them, because all of those titles that you would normally have access to through the Kindle Unlimited program that you pay a subscription fee for on a monthly basis, if your Kindle device is pre-2013, you are screwed. You're out. Sorry. Amazon doesn't care. And frankly, according to their terms and conditions that you click to accept, you don't have a choice in the matter. But this is why I would always recommend utilizing applications or programs on your Kindle, such as a PDF document reader or an EPUB document reader. You can even use the preloaded Office Suite program that comes on every Kindle in order to access and read doc or docx or RTF, rich text format files, TXT files. Many of them are going to look really weird and have wonky formatting. That does cause a bit of eye strain. My point being, your device has not become a paperweight, though that is what Amazon would want you to presume. Why? Because they want you to purchase a new Kindle. They want you to buy a new device, something more up to date, so that you can maintain access to all of your old purchases. These are not purchases. These are limited licenses of accessibility. This is a point that has been drilled into people's heads ad nauseum for a couple of years now. And if you have not gotten the point previously, because you aren't up to date on the current or latest and greatest video games, like I'm not, I'm a retro gamer by and large. So a lot of the digital only or digital first uh, constraints in terms of video gaming don't really hit me primarily. But because I pay attention to what's going on in the video game spaces, I've heard this discourse for a little while now. And I'm aware of the problems that people are facing with trying to access material that they paid full price for, full market value and price for, but they now no longer have access to. The idea of your money, your hard earned money, was exchanged for a good or service, but that good or service has now been cut off. Tom, stuck in the South, asks a very valid question. Why would anyone want a Kindle when an Android tablet would do the same and more? It's a very good question, and especially when you consider that Android tablets often have the Kindle app available on them. It really is kind of Amazon shooting themselves in the foot. And it's a valid question. Why would anyone do that? My wife had a Samsung tablet through our phone provider, through AT&T, and unfortunately, it was past its warranty. The tablet had been paid off by the time one of our kiddos got a hold of it and dropped it and smashed it. We, to this day, cannot get either one of our boys to admit that they were the one to do it. But something that they both agreed to, curiously, is that their little sister didn't do it. I love my little girl, but I swear she could run up and stab me in the thigh with a fork. And one of her brothers would say, I did it, because they really don't like seeing her upset or cry or get in trouble, when sometimes she is the one who should be in trouble. It's like, my boys, are you that suicidal in terms of your empathy toward your baby sister? Yeah, she's little, she's cute, she's sweet, she doesn't know any better yet, but she better learn. I don't want to get daddy stabbed. Anyway, so yeah, perfect point that Tom brings up here. So I'm going to highlight that for a moment. Why would anyone want a Kindle when an Android tablet would do the same and more? This is something that Amazon has been toying around with for about a year now. Something that they've been in discussions with internally that they have not come down hard on just yet. But there have been discussions at Amazon in the Kindle division about allowing, or rather putting up a kind of a barrier that people who use the Kindle application on smartphones or non-Kindle devices, putting up a wall so that people utilizing the app on a phone or a non-Kindle tablet device, or even a laptop computer, cannot install the Kindle Direct or Kindle Unlimited program, even if they have an Amazon account and subscribe or pay for the Kindle Unlimited program, to put up a digital firewall effectively stating, well, yeah, you have Amazon Unlimited, you've got Kindle Unlimited, but it's not available for the app. You have to have a Kindle device in order to access that application. I'm not a tech nerd. I'm not a programmer. I don't know how they would go about implementing that kind of barrier. I don't know myself. Someone who's a bit more tech savvy would, well, a lot more tech, but I'm not tech savvy at all. So somebody a little more tech savvy than myself would probably be able to explain, if they go forward, if they move forward and do that, how exactly they would control for that interoperability. I'm not 100% certain. But that has been a solution that Amazon has been kicking around back and forth amongst their own people in the Kindle division. is basically saying, if you don't have a Kindle, you can't use Kindle Unlimited. Oh, but I've got the Kindle app for my phone. Nope, sorry, not good enough. We're going to make sure we have a method programmed into the code of the Kindle Unlimited program that it will search to detect your device type. And if it is not a Kindle, we will not allow you to access the files of the material. Yeah, they're protecting us from ourselves. Yeah. So much done in the name of self-protection that it makes me want to scream. But my overall general point regarding your pre-2013 Kindle or Kindle Fire, in my case, the device is not a paperweight. It's not dead. But you're on your own now in terms of maintaining the software, maintaining the actual physical device itself. And here's something that really makes me want to growl and snarl about this, is in terms of device warranties. Effectively, if you have a warranty on your pre-2013 Kindle device, it is now void. If something happens to it, you're shit out of luck. So that warranty that you paid for, secure in the knowledge that if something happened physically to your Kindle, that you'd be able to get a replacement, that's no longer on the table. Now what will happen is Amazon will issue you a credit for the value of the device at the time the warranty ended. In other words, at the time of this policy update, they will issue you a credit for that amount towards the purchase of a new Kindle. Yeah. Tom puts it perfectly. If you are tech savvy, just pull it apart and use the screen for something else. Build your own device if you're tech savvy and capable of doing that. I'm not in that group. But yeah, it's kind of like, okay, so I've got a 2012 Kindle Fire. Secondary market, I could maybe see someone asking for $40 to $50 for this device at most. Mine is in pretty good condition. It's got some scuffing though, from consistent use, especially after when I first got this thing. Oh, I burned through a lot of books on this fucking thing. I did a lot of my reading digitally on this. Most of my reading these days, for about the last year, I've gone back to primarily physical format, but I do still indulge in digital format reading, especially when I am just trying to read something for review purposes. If I don't have quick access to a physical copy, I'll get an electronic or digital copy of a book to read for a review. But then, if I really enjoy it, I'll go and grab a physical copy somewhere, either from thrift books or from eBay, what have you. Or, if it's a smaller indie press author, I'll go to their website or wherever it is they direct me to. I have purchased books off of Amazon from indie authors. I have purchased direct from the beast of Bezos. Yes, I will confess I have purchased books off of Amazon. I only will purchase indie books off of Amazon, however. If I want to get another book from a mainstream or more broadly available author, an older work or title, I'm going to go to thrift books or eBay. I'm not going to continue giving more and more of my money to Jeff Bezos when I don't have to. If there's an option, I'll take it. But it also does end up putting to light there are other ebook devices out there that you can utilize. There's the Sony Ericsson e-reader series. True, they haven't put out a new Sony Ericsson e-reader since 2023, but they are solid devices. They run off of an Android operating system, much like Tom mentioned before. So a lot of your Android tablet programs, applications, and functionality is right there on the Ericsson e-reader device. The Kobo ebook readers, there's a series of those devices, particularly the Kobo Libra. It's a really nice looking device. For my liking, it's very streamlined. It's like, it is literally the size of a mass market paperback. Not even a very, not even a very thick one. Obviously, a very thin one. But it comes in its own like safe folio cover case. The only downside for me of the Kobo Libra, and the reason I don't have one, they're like $160. I'd love to get one, but I cannot justify the expenditure right now to myself. You know why? Because I still have devices that work. I'm not going to replace or update something that I have that currently works if I don't have to. If it ain't fixed, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it still functions, it's like Megatron. Wait! I still function. Wanna bet? Starscream! Anyway, I had to get my Transformers reference in there. Dork! It's okay. I'm happy to be that dork. But this is also, again, it just highlights once more why but consumerism. I know, I understand that, Tom. And trust me, there are ways in which I am guilty of being a consumerist hack. Is this bin right here? And that one over there? Full of comic books. And there's 2 series on my pull list from the comic shop that I go to on the weekly, Story Arc Collectibles or Comics and Collectibles. Right here in Savage, Minnesota. But there are a couple of different series that I'm like 5 or 6 issues behind. I've been routinely buying them and picking them up because they're on my pull list, but I haven't gotten around to getting caught up on them and making sure that I am up to date with the current relevant stories that I'm reading. Tom says, you need to replace devices yearly and a car every 3 years. Is that like the recommended being the bugman consumerist schloppo? Because no. I will not fall for that. Look, this phone was my wife's phone. She used our plan's upgrade to finally basically get me a new phone by getting herself a new phone. I had the Samsung S20. I used that fucker for like 4.5 years. I did not want to upgrade. I did not want to update. I did not want to replace. But it finally was at the point where I had dropped it several times. It was cracked all the shit. It was slow and buggy as hell. But I was still able to make it work. It was still functional enough for me to get by, and I did not want to replace it until I finally could not receive text messages. At which point my wife was like, you know what? We got to do it. It's done. Oh, Tom, hold up. Hold up. You mentioned something there. That kind of stuck in my brain. There we go. All right. I dinged on that because it is not the old one. But my friend, that series is currently on my pull list. G.I. Joe, the Skybound Image Comics run, currently up through issue 20. And I am currently, I need to get back to, I gotta get caught up on these. I have not read issues 13 through 20 yet, but I have them. So I gotta get caught up on my G.I. Joe as well. I also gotta get caught up on my Transformers. I'm like 7 issues back on that. Again, I have them, I just haven't sat down to read them yet. You know, splitting up my available reading time versus movies or shows or video games. I don't have a great deal of that time. I'm spending some of it here streaming. I mentioned this yesterday. Like, I could be reading. And when I get done with the show here today, I probably will sit down and do some of that reading. Reminds me, I got to get my Mega Man X and my Twilight Zone issue read as well. I've got some catching up to do. Point being, as much of a geek as I am, I've always got catching up to do. Tom, okay, yeah. My wife and I are much the same dynamic. I do most of my online stuff, most of my writing, most of my research on my tablet here. I don't do a lot of it on my actual laptop computer these days. For the most part, I use the laptop for making videos and occasionally playing certain old games that I don't have a handheld retro device that can handle them. Like, all my PSP playing is done on my laptop with, the wireless controller. But anywho, I don't do much of that these days either. A lot of my gameplay these days is Super Nintendo and Game Boy Advance. And in order to avoid, Nintendo ninjas from their legal division swooping in and cutting my throat open, I play those games. I will not specify on what device to avoid legal action. But I don't stream that because I'm not a game streamer. Oh, okay. The 6-inch G.I. Joes. Again, I'm behind. I've only read up to issue 13, but the Skybound G.I. Joe run has actually been pretty decent. I was expecting it to be modern audience schlock. And who knows, they may eventually end up going that way. But thus far, it's been fairly solid. I trust the folks behind Skybound and Image Comics. Certainly, I trust them more than the folks at Marvel and DC. Marvel's been doing a new run of Ghost Rider stories called Spirits of Violence that the first couple issues were okay. There was some modern audience shit kind of layered in. Wasn't too heavy-handed. But by the time they got to issue 4, I was like, okay, I'm done. As much as I enjoy Ghost Rider, I cannot in good conscience continue with this series because now it's just over the top. And I'm sick and tired of every character who I grew up really engaged with and fascinated by and enjoying being deconstructed and thrown through the grinder of Roland Barthes' Death of the Author, postmodernist analysis and deconstruction horse shit. I'm tired of it. And they completely wreck Johnny Blaze and his relationship with his wife, Roxanne. They completely neuter Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider. It's like, oh my God, can we please not take all of these legacy characters who were incredibly enjoyable and fascinating and entertaining and thought-provoking from the 80s and 90s and retrofit them in order to suit the desires and tastes of a modern audience that's not going to buy the shit to begin with. It was, Tom, it was infuriating. They basically bitched out Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider and made him a second banana, which, again, if compared to the original Rider, who was infested with the demon Zarathos, I get it, because Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider then went on to become the spirit of corruption, and that whole storyline got so convoluted. There were way too many cooks in the kitchen in that early 2000s run of Ghost Rider. When they ended it, it was a death well-deserved and overdue in order to try and reset things. But then when they reset them with Robbie Reyes as the new Spirit of Vengeance, he was half-assed, and it wasn't an enjoyable story. It did mirror some of the Danny Ketch setup of how he became the Spirit of Vengeance, but they ended up trying to take some of the worst elements from the prior run of Ghost Rider and shoehorn it into the new one. It made no goddamn sense. Right, just create some new characters. Or if you're going to bring back an old character, bring them back as they were. Continue the story and make it make sense. I'm going to hit the bathroom. I'll be right back. Okay. All right. So sorry about that sideline screed about Ghost Rider and comic books, but it is bookish things, sort of. Well, that's another thing. Something else you can do with your pre-2013 Kindle, and it's something that's really nifty about things like the Adobe Acrobat PDF Reader program, is it does read and display PDF image document files as well. So you can transfer your electronic comic books export them into a PDF image file format and read them on your older Kindle device. That will still work so long as you have the app. If you don't already have an EPUB or PDF document reading application on your older Kindle device, bear in mind that you can still turn on the Wi-Fi functionality and use it to connect to the internet. And you can use an APK side-loading site or program in order to download those programs onto your Kindle. And at that point, you're going to have to, because accessibility to or access to the Kindle store will not be available. So you can't download the app from the Kindle store from your pre-2013 Kindle device. Now, Tom, here's the thing about that. No matter how it is that you are being bookish, bookishness is always appreciated, even if it's comic bookish. Still good stuff. Moving on now to that the second area of grumbling and growling that I have set myself up for today. Fevered egos again. Yeah. Got some points to go over here. Set that aside. Because I handwrite fucking everything. Even notes, like just basic bullet point notes for doing impromptu shows. I have to handwrite these things or I won't remember them off the top of my head. I'm an old man. What do you want? I turned 44 yesterday. So, the memory, it is a failing. Anywho, without naming names specifically, because that would invariably invite the rabid attack dogs of the fevered egos in question to come dogpiling on in, I am finding more and more reason on a daily basis to look around at the online environments of YouTube and X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, wherever you go online for kind of still a bad, yeah. I mean, compared to some. But more and more on a daily basis, I'm finding myself looking around and saying, or wanting to say, I'm done. I'm out. Fuck this. Fuck that. Fuck you. Bring on the comet. It's no longer viable to be a small timer, to be a quote unquote normie, to be a nobody. It's infuriating. It's frustrating. And it is, to use the Yuri Bezmenov term, it's demoralizing. If you are not someone with a gigantic audience, or even a modest audience, a mid-sized audience, you've got no hope, almost no hope, of moving the conversation, of budging the needle. The only shortcuts that are available to getting into a position where you can affect the conversation, broadly speaking, most of the avenues or shortcuts into doing so are really kind of grimy and sleazy. Being one of these kind of ankle biters who goes after and hyper criticizes a specific well-known content creator or streamer. That seems to be a shortcut that a lot of people try to access and utilize, but that is not a wise idea, particularly by the folks who tend to end up being these ankle biters. They go after the most mundane or harmless, kind of extraneous aspect of these larger creators. They'll latch on to one slip of the tongue or one unpopular opinion or perspective or stance that they have publicly made, even if it's not something that they actually dedicate or devote a great deal of time and attention to, but they will latch on They will latch on like a piranha and just shake it as hard as they can to draw blood and attention and get themselves into the limelight. And to be honest, it's kind of a scumbag move in my perspective. You know, everyone's results will vary. I don't find that to be a wise approach, especially when the larger personality in question has clarified themselves in the past. Hey, here's what I think about subject A, B, or C, or concept A, B, or C, but I'm not married to that opinion because I'm not an expert, but here's what I think of it based upon what I know. It could very well be a bad take. It could be something that is broadly seen as, oh, well, that's kind of shitty, but it's well known and has been clarified that that person in question, the larger content creator or personality, is not deeply devoted to that position or stance on topic X, Y, or Z because they generally don't actually devote a lot of time or attention to it. Yep, precisely, Tom. And I recognize this reality and I accept it. We are all to quote Tom here, we are all very small cogs in an insanely large machine. Few of us matter enough to affect the system, even in the slightest. Maybe a handful matter enough to cause a hiccup. Yes, that is true. And that is oftentimes what ends up leading to people feeling kind of demoralized, or the common term for it these days is, quote, black pilled. And people just kind of throw their hands up and say, fuck it, I give up. The only way I'm going to be able to get myself inserted into this conversation is to start trouble. And some of us do not want to be shit stirrers. We would like to engage in the conversation, but we don't want to resort to underhanded tactics in order to get onto the stage. I do not personally want to knife someone in the kidney just to move up further in the queue. That's not worth it, because that would violate my principles. And again, where are those principles getting me? Or any of us who are those small cogs? We are asked to maintain our composure, to maintain our integrity and our honor, to hold up our principles. Well, that's all fine and dandy to request of us. But where are any of us getting by holding on to those sacred principles? Getting fucking nowhere, and nowhere in a hurry. But does that mean we should abandon them altogether and throw them overboard? I don't want to, because I still hold to these principles and these ideas. They still matter to me. And the kind of fuckers who are manipulative cunts know very well that they can manipulate and maneuver and crowbar their way in to making me change my mind or act in a way that is deleterious to me and mine by leveraging those principles against me. And I know that. And Tom, yes, I'll highlight again. Life would be better if people in general accepted this and realized it's not that big an issue. I recognize the wisdom of that, which is why, by and large, I do throw my hands up and say, I can't. I can't. Never going to have an impact in these areas. Which is why, for most areas of life, I don't chime in. I don't say much. I don't put in my 2 cents because I know it's meaningless. It's pointless. I basically just be bashing my head against the wall. But I can't give up on everything. I can't just surrender everything in every arena about which I give a shit. I have to do something. And I have to do it while trying to hold to my own sense of honor. And I think this is where a lot of people have become so frustrated that they turn into ankle biters. They turn into those people who just they're snapping and snarling at every available drop of blood in the water because they feel cornered, as though there's nothing for them to hope for. What drives me crazy is that the same people who bark about, you can't be black-pilled, bro. These are often the same people who demand that you shut your mouth and fall in line with their orthodoxy because it's obviously the right or righteous path, bro. Now kneel and submit and obey. Send your donos or your super chats, bro. Like, fuck you. No. And again, Tom with a fair point. When he got diagnosed with MS, he says, I became a firm believer that sometimes you are the poor shit standing under the fan when shit hits it. It's not personal. That's just life. That's just the universe. It's just how these things go. Fair. True. I can't argue against that. There's no logical way for me to argue against the random chaos of just existence and life, generally speaking. That sometimes bad things, oftentimes bad things happen to good people. Decent people are thrust into positions where they are absolutely powerless and can do nothing to change the outcome. But there's so many people who effectively are standing there telling them, well, you're right, you can't change the outcome. It'll never happen for you. So fall in line and get on my program. Throw your support behind person X, Y, or Z because they are bigger and they do have an influence and an impact. Well, why shouldn't that person advocate for themselves, for their position? Yes, it is pretty much hopeless. They're not going to get heard. But what else are they supposed to do? Just give up and throw in with somebody else's lot? That's not going to work for everybody. Effectively it comes down to, for me, oftentimes, yeah, you know what? I know that Group A absolutely hates my guts and wants to destroy me and mine and or my worldview or way of life. But it seems like all these big fevered egos group wants is to denigrate, insult, control, and dominate me and take my money. It effectively comes down to the choice of die on my feet or live on my knees. If those are my only options, here's the gun. Just make it quick. And it's especially egregious for me, and it drives me up a wall most often lately with VTubers. I hear this sentiment all the time from VTubers. My audience wouldn't or shouldn't do X, Y, or Z. If I find out or if I hear that people in my audience are doing this, that, or the other thing, I am going to personally ban them, or I want my mods to ban them from my show or my channel. You're not welcome here because that's not what we do here. What cult of personality, cult leader, beloved El Presidente kind of figure are you? Go fuck yourself. You're not my commanding officer or my mother, okay? This shit is rampant with these these anime waifu girly girl personalities, it's in fucking sufferable. And again, I'm not going to name names because these people have some of the most rabid, rampant, will do anything and everything to undercut anyone who speaks ill of their beloved Oshi, which is a term that makes me want to gag by just saying it out loud. It's infuriating because it assumes a degree of groupthink that is disgusting to me. But it's also why I don't throw in my lot entirely with those personalities. Don't get me wrong, there's some of them who I really enjoy. But they do these things and it drives me crazy when they do. But I'm not going to go out of my way to point that out because who the hell am I? I'm just somebody who's watching and or listening to their show. And 90%, if not more of them, if or when you do point out the shitty things they are doing in this way, they'll step back and say, no, that's not what I intend. I know that my audience, they're free-willed individuals who have their own lives and their own sovereignty to do what they're going to do. Okay, well then why are you demanding that they behave in a certain specific way or you will disown them? The whole idea of, I disavow you because of what you've done. I thought we were past the stage of disavowing people by association. What, does that no longer apply? Suddenly you want to say, that you can't blame somebody for the actions of their audience or the actions or behaviors of the people who follow them or listen to them. You want to give that defense to people who I enjoy, like Alex Jones. Okay? You want to remove responsibility or guilt by association from people who you enjoy and agree with, but you're going to attach responsibility and answerability and accountability to your own audience and tell them if they don't obey you, they're out of the club. Go fuck yourself. And then there's also the, some of them, and this is, again, really rampant with VTubers. And one of my biggest gripes with particularly the more popular ones, they will go out of their way to say, hey, if someone goes after a friend of mine or someone in my audience, my fans, my whatever term of endearment they've come up with to apply to their audience as a whole. If someone goes after one of my people, I will stand and defend them and protect them. I will breathe fire on their behalf. Bullshit. No, you fucking won't. You'll do it for the people who are in your crowd or your circle of friends who are well known, who you would benefit from having a visible defense for and serving as shield maiden to. Sure, you'll go out of your way to say, relatively popular person X, Y, or Z who I consider a friend or a close associate, or, not a friend per se, maybe an acquaintance, but they're well known and they're very much in the public view and they're coming under a lot of heat and a lot of negative attention. I will stand and defend them. When members of your own audience are being breathed hellfire on all over the place, but defending them wouldn't get you any clout or any attention because they are, to use these people's own terminology, whose Glopshido megalols, to use the Nicholas Diorio term. These are unknown who's, and they get breathed fire on all the fucking time. But there's no benefit to you to stand and defend them. Now, is there? So you won't do it. And there's been no evidence that you would. But for the well-known figure, yeah, you'll stand and defend them all day because you get clicks and views and donos for that. But the members of your own audience who try to stand and defend you, who then get dogpiled, but they're plebs, they're who's. They knew what they were getting into. They knew that by standing by me, that they may, receive some of the friendly fire, some shrapnel from standing and defending me and mine. You'll bring up the tower shield for the well-known 20,000 subscriber viewer, but for the 200 follower person who nobody really knows that well, they're coming under the same or even more hellfire because they're a relative unknown. They got to stand on their own. Again, it all boils down to how these VTuber idols can benefit or not. It's the same cost-benefit analysis. And to stand there and be so disingenuous about it makes my fucking blood boil. I understand that there's way too much. You can't possibly be expected to keep track of all of the shit and hellfire that your entire audience is facing. I'm not naive enough or retarded enough to not understand that. But I'm also not retarded enough to not see that you are consistently running a cost-benefit analysis. All I'm asking you for is some honesty about it. That's all anybody can ask of you at this point, is just be honest about it. Don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. We understand very well why you're standing as shield maiden to this other VTuber who's coming under a lot of scrutiny. We get it. You stand to benefit from it. You stand to gain from it. They are very much in the public view. A lot of eyeballs are on that situation. Understandable. But don't try to sit there and say, well, I would offer this defense to any of my fans. No, you fucking wouldn't. Quit trying to play up like you are the world's mother figure. You're not. And some of us are not so stupid or smitten by your anime waifu model to believe that you are. It's self-aggrandizing, arrogant horseshit. Knock it off. It's self-congratulatory, backslapping, self-high-fiving, self-indulgent, martyr figure construction. And I don't buy it. It is another case of people having fevered fucking egos. That's tiresome. When people point out or observe, so much online activity seems to be bots or sock accounts. So much of it's disingenuous, dishonest. It's people who aren't really engaged in the conversation. People are checking out. Yeah, they are. In droves. Because a lot of folks have an even lower threshold for this horse shit than I do. And I've got a fairly high threshold for bullshit. I have a teenage kid. I have to put up with a lot of bullshit. The difference being, with the online sphere, I can just log off. Have done with it. Focus on my immediate environment. Concentrate on my family. My wife, my kids. I would say my friends, but I don't have a lot of friends. That's an active choice, though. That's largely because I don't trust people easily. So I keep a fairly small circle of friends. That's not a woe is me. That's a conscious choice that I've made over the years. Yeah, Tom puts it perfectly. Everyone wants to be the martyr until it comes to actually being martyred. Everyone wants to be a martyr till it comes to actual martyrdom. I like that. True. But like I said, the easiest thing for it, the simplest solution, log off, check out. And there are long stretches where I do log off. I do check out. I cease commenting. I don't join in the conversations. And then every now and again, I'll kind of poke my head back in and say, hey, oh, how's everyone doing? And folks just kind of carry on like either I didn't say anything or like, oh, hey, been a while. Welcome back. We don't really check in with each other, though, to see how things are going unless someone comes right out and says, hey, sorry I've been absent for a while. I've been dealing with this really fucked up situation or, personal challenge or problem, but figured I'd stop in and say hello. That will prompt people to follow up and ask, hey, what exactly is going on? Are you doing okay? Is there any way I can help? That's good communication. Some folks, though, like myself, I don't want to burden anyone with stuff that it's not their business, for one. Not to be rude, but oftentimes with personal matters, I'm not going to share what's going on in my headspace or in my day-to-day life and challenges with other people who cannot be expected to help do anything about it. I'm just adding a pile of negative junk for them to think about at that point. That's not responsible friendship. I'm not just going to dump on people and say, hey, here's my bullshit. Deal with that in your head. Not if I actually care about them. Not if I want them to have a decent day. Wouldn't be right. So, I don't really have a solution on these things. With the fevered egos, rather. The Kindle stuff. That I've got solutions I can offer. I've got ideas of where to go with that. One of them being, this is my preferred response, my preferred option or answer. Have the shit in physical format. If you want to keep and enjoy your books and always reliably have access to them, get the physical book so that you have it in hand. The downside of that, obviously, is going to be bulk. It's going to require actual physical space in which to store these things. Digital books, electronic copy books are nice and easy and handy dandy to carry around. I've got an entire library on this device that is easily 3 times the size in terms of number of titles as what I have on my shelves here or in these totes down here next to the desk. I get this whole dresser desk full of books. Storage of these things eventually comes at a premium. There's only so many places you can stack or store or shove your books. Very easy to fit them electronically all into one spot. The problem being, there's so much that can go wrong with this device. including no longer being able to use it properly. Tom says, I think that's kind of a male thing. Girlfriends always asks if you've spoken to a friend or a relative X, and I'm like, nope, I'll hear from them when it matters. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. That kind of is how it goes. You know, like, for example, my brother, Colin, yes, my son is named after my brother. Kind of an homage to him. My older son is named after my wife's grandfather. We wanted to use names that were important to our family backgrounds. But I think that just kind of makes sense. Like, if something important comes up, in the life of a friend or a family member, I'll hear from them. My brother Colin messaged me yesterday to say happy birthday. And he said, I should probably message more often than just, on specific days or, around certain special events or anniversaries or whatnot. But happy birthday. It's like, hey, don't worry about it, dude. Like, whoa. A terabyte full of books that you can't access. Oh. Brother, that's fucked. That's a lot of books. That's a lot of fucking books to not be able to get a hold of. Holy God. Okay. Small bit of nerd tech talk sidebar. To anyone else watching this now or later, I want you to understand that your typical book file, your typical book document file, at most is a couple of meg in size. At most. Your average 75 to 90,000 word book is about what? Half a meg in terms of file size. Yeah, so I would say like here. Well, actually, I'll use this as an example. Okay. This combination book, this 1984 Animal Farm duology, in electronic file format size, would probably be about half a meg to 1 full meg. All right. You need 1,000 meg to get to a gig, a gigabyte. You need 1,000 gigabytes to get to a terabyte. That's a lot of books to not have access to. That's a fuck ton, Tom. Holy shit. And to be robbed of access to them. Gee God. I'm sorry, man. That fucking sucks. Oh, man. Now, the tech manuals, did they have, like, images in them? Because that can take up quite a bit of space, too. When there's, like, illustrations, that can balloon out the size of a given file, especially tech manuals. Or D&D files, yeah. If there's images, if there's artwork, diagrams and designs and what have you, that can blow up the size of one book file. But still, not anything ridiculous or outrageous in size. That still ends up being a fuck ton of books. that you can't get access to. Okay, yep, and mostly in PDF format. Yeah, when you've got like large images in a PDF document, it can balloon up the size of your average book. Like some of the older tech manuals, you'll see that a tech manual with a lot of diagrams and illustrations can balloon up to a couple hundred meg for one book. But megabytes, there's still not many of them that are going to go over the size of a few hundred megabytes. And you need 1,000 gigabytes to get to a terabyte. That's what I'm trying to convey to anyone watching later or right now who doesn't quite understand the average book document file size, what that means in terms of scale. That's a ton of books that you are robbed of. Think of it this way, folks. Let's say you've got your average Xbox 360 game ranges between 25 to 50 gig in size. And how many games can you fit into a terabyte? Quite a few. Now reduce down the size of that game to the size of a book, a PDF file, a document file. How many more can you fit into a terabyte? An awful damn lot. And Tom is trapped outside of being able to get access to that. God, that sucks. That's why I fully support things like the Internet Archive or the Wayback Machine. If there are documents or if there are like tech manuals, book files that you've purchased, you've previously had access to, and some technical glitch, some technological failing, some digital trapdoor got ripped open and dropped you down into the pit of suck. Having the availability or option to go and retrieve new digital copies of those previously held works is so vital to maintaining accessibility. Yeah, oh man. Picture files. That's why, the digital first camp, I'm sorry, I can't be digital first. I will never be digital first. I will especially never be digital only. Physical format first. Digital is great for supplemental or to have things that you're not deeply sentimentally attached to. The only exception I would say would be video, like for things like YouTube videos or Rumble videos, Odyssey videos, or live streams. Yeah, putting those into a physical format, probably not going to happen anytime soon. And I wouldn't necessarily want to. As much as I enjoy doing these streams sometimes, and as much as I enjoy making videos, I'm not really attached to them. Not that much. If something happens and a digital trapdoor opens and they fall into the spike or lava pit and they're gone forever, it happens. Yeah, and that's the thing. Physical format is harder to lose because it is physical. It's there. The storage capacity is where we run into the problem, as well as certain things having accessibility and usage of. For instance, my boys have access to my OG Xbox, my old black Xbox, or rather, their grandfather's OG Xbox. And he's got a bunch of games there's like 5 or 6 of them that absolutely will not play in that Xbox because my boys were really rough with them and scratched them all to hell and breakfast. Even though I had warned them repeatedly, if you do not handle these properly, they'll get scratched and scuffed and will no longer be usable. And sure enough, that proved true. And that's also a fair point, Tom. Things that are worthwhile are the things that we can hold on to in our minds. Okay. Situation. That's gonna. Okay. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here in a minute. I gotta get lunch, and then I'm gonna buckle down and read some comics. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns about anything I've covered today, go ahead and load them up. I'll get to what I can in the next few minutes, but I'll be wrapping up here shortly. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm actually gonna have to cut off early. Kiddo's having some issues at daycare with his ear. He might have an ear infection, so I gotta go pick him up. So, cheers.